Our Historic Review Commission meeting today, July 7th, Monday. First, we'll have a call to order and roll call. Dave Brennan here. Melinda Meyer.
Here.
Commissioner Jean Craig Pepper is not here. Mark Tannenbaum.
Here.
And then that's it for the members. And we have a vacancy. So I wanted to congratulate Matthew Falcone for being our new historic preservation planner. But because of Matthew going to this position, which is great for the city, we now have a vacant commissioner seat, and which we'll be addressing during this meeting. The second item on our list is the public comment. Is there any public comment today? No. Okay, no public comment. Okay, third item is the HRC officer elections. Like I said, with Matthew stepping down, we now have a vacancy, and I'd like to open it up to the board. If anyone would like to make any nominations for the chair of the HRC.
I'm actually wondering if we wait until we actually fill our vacant position, when we have right,
that's true.
to
That's
actually
true.
hold our elections. But that, again, that's just a suggestion. It's not a formal motion yet, but I do. I will make a motion if that is something that we should entertain.
Any other conversation on that subject? I had asked for if there's any motions, but that's a motion to postpone, which is pretty good.
How many seats are in this?
This one.
So Craig is absent, and we have one vacancy. And so if I were to make the motion, what the motion that I would make would be to postpone the election until the fifth seat is filled, and in the interim, our vice chair continue to fulfill the responsibilities of president for the interim. But again, just an idea.
Do we have a second for that motion? There's a motion on the table to.
Sure, I'm happy to make that motion.
So is there that's a formal motion on the table to postpone it until we get a commissioner on board.
Well, and Craig is present.
Yeah, and Craig is present.
I'm fine with that. Yes.
Okay, so that's a second.
Second.
Those in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed? Hearing none, the ayes have it. So we will postpone the election of officers. I will continue to serve as the interim chair, and then we will get our new member on board, and then have an election of officers very soon following. Any questions? Okay. We'll go to number 4 next, which is the approval of past meeting minutes. Did everyone get, approval of past meeting minutes. Everyone get a chance to review the meeting minutes?
Actually, Mr. Chair, if I might,
That's right. Now, as I said that, I'm like, that's right, we didn't have any. Okay.
I was absent, and Commissioner Meyer as well for last meeting, so staff is working to compile minutes from our June meeting. They should be available for August for ratification.
Okay. And their certificate of appropriateness, there is no report, there's no new COAs. Any other public correspondence? Yes, there is. Okay.
We received 2 pieces of correspondence for comment. One was from Tom Aggio, commenting on the Article 7 revisions. He provided suggestions, commentary, The other, we received a letter from ABJ Wilson, who provided commentary and asked a few questions about the 4 Spanish cantons that are in Lakeview Cemetery. In his correspondence, he reminded the city that they were originally gifted to the city, not the cemetery, and that they are on loan. And so I'm working with the clerk to identify any record of donation, and in order to be able to respond to Mr. Wilson and give him a bit more information about ownership of those cannons.
Okay. For the comments, will you be emailing that to the commissioners so we could look at it in more detail?
I can if you so wish.
Okay, great. It sounds good. Any other comments or questions about the public comment?
No,
Correspondence?
We did visit the cannon last week, and they are spectacular. And that whole cemetery is spectacular. It's very historic. And that might be a good place to... Oh, sir. That might be a good place to designate as a historic zone. There's lots to it.
Okay. We'll now move on to the old business, the zoning ordinance amendments, Article 7, historic resource protection.
I have good news to report. Things are moving along quite well with Article 7. So Council last week had their first hearing on July the 2nd and unanimously voted for the revisions that were proposed by the HRC and by Planning Commission. So at this point, we believe we need a second hearing. So Council, or second vote, if I'm not mistaken, I'd look to our attorney. And once that occurs later on this month, then the new version of Article 7 will come to fruition.
Okay,
So it
great.
needs to have one more vote?
On
That's
council.
how to do that? I didn't see the meeting. Was there a lot of comments about it, other than Mr. Maggi?
We did receive one other, I think, public comment about the revisions that were in support. And during the initial council hearing, there were some members of the public who also spoke out in favor
In favor?
of revisions. From the council people themselves, we did have several questions, kind of clarification questions that we were able to work through.
But no one seemed to have dire concerns.
No, the consensus was that all were supportive of these changes, and I think that their initial vote by council, which was unanimous, is a pretty clear indication that they are supportive of these changes.
Well, good.
Okie doke, thank you.
But yeah, it was a months-long effort, and I know everyone was present and contributed for all of it. And I would also remind you that one of the changes that we had suggested was to the number of people on the commission. So for our earlier conversation, it's not only about filling the vacancy that was left, but there will be 2 other commissioners joining as well. Okay. So the complement would be 7 commissioners. The work that is in front of us this month is to ensure that we put out notice for applications for commissioners. I think if 3 of you have anyone in mind that would be a good fit for the commission, please reach out to me, give me some suggestions as well, and start letting people know that this is prospectively something that we would need to fill fairly quickly. The biggest concern, of course, is that once that complement is 7 folks, then we would need a quorum of at least 4. So it is of I think, primary concern that we're able to act quickly to make sure that we have a full complement.
We have the right person and the person to show up, so both important.
Yes, indeed.
So are we noting anything on the website, or are we going to plan on noting on the website for the vacancy, and then the vacancies coming up after that?
Yes. So once the legislation is finalized by council, then we will, we'll post the open 2 seats. For the vacancy, that'll be posted later on this week.
Okay, great, super.
And do we as a board seek out additional folk, or is it, I know the mayor can appoint, I know that the city council can appoint. So if there's 2 open seats, is that up to us to try to find an appropriate skilled individual willing to participate, or is it up to?
It's an excellent question. Per our legislation, the vacant position we have available now is one that's appointed by the mayor. And so that would then need to be backfilled, if you will, because they are filling the remainder of the term that exists. For the 2 open positions, those would be appointed by council, which is why we have to ensure that Article 7 is put into place before those are posted.
And if we do our due diligence and encourage people to apply for the current vacant position, will those applications be kept when the 2 new seats are created and considered for that? I'm just curious. I mean, right, so if we do our due diligence and we get, 5 stellar candidates apply for the vacant position, I'd hate to have them go through the process again. Can we hold those perhaps and then consider them for the new positions once they make it through council?
So the application process goes directly to the mayor's office for mayoral candidate. I don't know if the same process applies for council.
Okay.
I don't know if they have an application process or they're recommended. Typically in the past, how it's been done is that they might reach out, like council members might reach out to city staff and ask for recommendations upon, before they make a motion to vote in someone.
So the 2 new positions, will they be council appointees or mayoral appointees, did you say? Council, okay.
Yes. I can ask whether the applications that come through, if that's the same process at the clerk's office, but I don't think so.
Okay,
Matthew would certainly make a recommendation to our liaisons, who would be, of course, to our liaisons for council to make a recommendation with the ones that we received for the mayoral.
okay. I appreciate the clarification on that, yeah. And actually, I also appreciate the potential communication, the possibility for communication, because while, of course, council may have candidates in mind for those open positions, I think it would be great also to relay the qualifications of people who are interested and have expressed interest through the open application to council. So I appreciate that. Yeah.
I think also one of the other points to keep in mind is that each position has a prescribed background in Article 7. And I believe, if I'm not mistaken, the current vacant position is one of someone who has interest in history or preservation in the community. So it's very broad and can apply to anyone who lives within the city of Erie and has a particular interest in history and historic preservation and community ties. I believe the 2 new positions that would open up upon the ratification of Article 7, one would be someone who is a real estate professional, and I believe the other is someone who has a background in architecture and or design. And so I think that each different posting would have a kind of separate
Skill set.
Yes, indeed. But for the vacant one that would go out later this week, it would be for somebody within the community who has, again, an interest in history, historic preservation. It's very, very broad. And I would suggest that now would be the time to really look and think through who all of you may have connections with out in the community that share those interests and might make a good candidate. I know that you yourselves don't have to find someone, I think, to Commissioner Tenenbaum's question, but it would be good to help get the word out, for sure.
And we could make recommendations to you, and you would make them to the board?
I'm happy to pass along any kind of, recommendations that you have.
That makes sense.
It would make sense to send it also to the professional boards of those particular,
Yeah.
the Board of Realtors, American Institute of Architects, and any other group.
Indeed.
Okay, any other comments, questions? The next on the agenda is the Citywide Historic Resource Survey updates.
The update there is we're coming to the end of the survey. So the conversations that we've had with the folks conducting the survey is that they've completed nearly all of the site work out in the community, and that they are now focused almost entirely on bureaucratic things like filling out forms.
So they're done with the site work?
Yes,
Okay.
and ensuring that all the survey work that they have completed is now entered into PA Share in particular, which is the State Historic Preservation Office's website for historic resources. So they are very focused, and we're hoping to have that wrapped up within the next month.
Great, sounds good. Next on the agenda is the State Street National Register Historic District. Is there an update on that one, Matthew?
Yeah, unfortunately, not nearly as far along as the others.
Okay.
But at the moment, the ball lies with our community partners, ensuring that the RFP is issued. So I know summer's a bit of a lag time to get most projects accomplished, but I know that our relationship with Emily is one where we're trying to move forward on this together, and at the moment are kind of awaiting their next steps.
Okay, sounds good. The NAPC camp in September. I think we've already made our decisions there. We're just getting the final details sorted out.
Yes. And so in speaking to the National Alliance of Historic Preservation Commissions, they are very excited to join us again. They have, I think, fond memories of coming out here a few years ago. And so this would be in person. And they are looking for dates in September that would work. And so I put it before you as commissioners of, is there a Friday or Saturday that you would prefer that they come out for a training in September?
And this is for September?
Mm-hmm. So you're welcome to dig into your calendars now, or if you prefer to do it a little later on.
So they're open to any dates, whatever we want. It's they're pretty clear.
And it's daytime. It's like 9 to 5. So,
It is daytime, and it would be 9 to 5. So they need some time to travel and some time to come in. I think that given the plethora of courses that we're looking at, it might make more sense to look for a Friday. I know it's an imposition to all of you who work, but that some of the sessions are specifically tailored for code enforcement. And so our hope is to bring on some other members of city staff so that they also have the benefit of being able to talk through kind of some of these topics in historic preservation. I know it's a bit easier for at least city staff in particular and members of the community who are also working to focus on a Friday session. But I, again, know it's quite a lot to ask of all of you to take an entire day for that. So if there's Friday doesn't work, then Saturday is just as good.
so how does Friday the 26th sound on September 26th?
I don't have my calendar. I'm going to have to go home and take a look at the
Because
calendar.
it might be the
and email.
26th and 27th. Would it also be Saturday?
No, it would just be a one-day session.
One day?
So their preference is that it happen kind of towards the end of the week so that they're able to travel. But it could be a Friday or Saturday, not Friday and
Where are
Saturday.
they coming from?
All over.
Oh, I see.
So they'll have at least 2 different trainers that will join us. And they're from other historic preservation commissions around the country. believe they mentioned one is from Georgia, if I'm not
So
mistaken.
should we maybe choose 2 different dates and then between that we could all check our schedules and,
But 26 works with me. I know, but Melinda needs to check her
You can say
calendar.
25th or 26th
26th.
if Thursday's okay.
26.
And they could choose.
I'll mark that down as tentative, and I think once all the commissioners have had a chance to double check their calendars, I'll move forward with contacting them and solidifying a date.
okay.
Sounds good.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay, then with old business, we'll go to new business, hearing and action, historic nominations, none. So that's that item. Applications for certificate of appropriateness, of course, there's none there also. Moving forward, the certified local government project mini grant.
Yes, but before we do get to that, I have some commentary for new business on historic nominations. Just to remind everyone that we are still, the moratorium is still in place for submitting new applications. And so the hope here is after Article 7 is ratified, that at our next session in August, we would hope to lift the moratorium on nominations. I can tell you that although my presence in city staff has been brief, over the past couple of weeks, we've had, and I've met with just about a dozen different community partners who are interested in moving forward with local landmark designations. Some are individual homeowners, some are business owners, some are people who run community assets. So what I would suggest is that it's going to be very nomination heavy over the next couple of months. And I would imagine that once the moratorium has been lifted and we're able to put word out that this process has begun, we'll have even more in the community. So it's been a very busy time, but also wonderful because I've gotten to know some people with some very fantastic historic places. And so I think that once these come to fruition and we're able to move forward, you're going to see some very cool nominations.
That sounds good to me. I'm glad they're keeping you busy, just kind of getting going here. So
Indeed.
good. That's good
But
to hear.
yes, to go back to item C, the CLG grant or mini grant, I did want to brief all of you that we did submit an application to the State Historic Preservation Office for a grant. And that grant was to hire a researcher to be able to do a National Register, individual National Register nomination. This is something that is on a site that has already been determined eligible to be listed on the National Register. It's a city-owned property. We're still working with...
I'm sorry, is this a specific property?
It is.
Okay, I couldn't hear what it was.
I haven't said it yet. We are still working within the city itself to make sure that we have all the approvals to move forward with the issuing an RFP. We haven't gotten to that point yet. So just to say, we've been awarded a grant. We're still waiting for all the approvals that we need in order to move forward with it. Once, I know it's a little enigmatic, but once we have all of those approvals in place, then we'll be able to talk a little bit more about kind of what it is and if we're able to do it. If we're not, then we will basically cancel the grant application with the state and look to move forward with another project.
Sounds good.
Yeah. It's been a busy, busy time.
Oh, was that my
It's been a very busy time.
Yeah, I bet. That's what it sounds like. It's already full of things to do.
Yes, it's been full throttle these past couple of weeks. I will say that on the note related to CLG grant funding, some of our survey work is tied into larger CLG funding for, for the folks who've been coming out and taking pictures and entering in information into PAA Share. The State Historic Preservation Office has yet to release this year's application process for large CLG grants. And so we did receive word recently that they intend on moving forward with that later on in the year. Traditionally, it opens up at the beginning of summer. In this case, it's been delayed until fall because of complications. But there will potentially be an opportunity for application for another larger CLG grant. And so I'm working with the planning department, and we'll come back to all of you sometime later this year before we put in a much larger grant application for a CLG project. I know that our priority has always been to continue the survey work, and that the survey work that is done now was only on like a half dozen neighborhoods within the city. And so prospectively, we would continue with that work in the future and ensure that the survey that's being done on all the architectural sites in Erie is representative of the entire city, not just the 6 neighborhoods. So phase 2 of the survey work, if you will.
Sounds good. Thank you, Matthew. Appreciate that.
Yep.
Next item was the vacant commissioner seat. Of course, we've already talked about that. We've talked about the efforts to get the new commissioner on board, and so that'll take place. The next item was the HRC bylaws initial updates.
Yes, thank you for this. I know it's a lot of hearing me talk, but in all of the business of the past couple of weeks, I've worked to identify kind of needs and things that will change once the Article 7, new revisions to Article 7 are put into place, and the Commission's bylaws are kind of top of that list. There is so much of the text within our bylaws that relate back to Article 7 that we'll need to look at updating that as well to ensure that what's in place for those bylaws is reflective of what the new language in Article 7 is. There's, I think, some other opportunities as well to address some other issues that go on with rules and procedures. Specifically, we should look to add some language about conflicts of interest, what should be done in the case where there is a prospective conflict of interest. There's also an opportunity to add more guidance on if an applicant would like a briefing instead of a hearing, and what the procedure of the commission would be in that case. So what I would ask of all of you, I'm of course in this role and very happy to take the lead on making these changes. I know that within the bylaws itself, it says that there is a need for a 10-day advance notification for the changes. So if all of you are comfortable with me taking the lead on this, I can work over the next 3 weeks to put forward a draft of those changes and send it to you for consideration, and also to ensure that we're then meeting the notification requirement of the bylaws of 10 days advance notice. Conversely, I'm also happy to yield the floor to the commission to make changes to the bylaws and rules and procedures yourselves. It's really at the will of which path you would like to take.
Yeah, I don't know if there's any other comments on the bylaws, but if you have a draft you're going to put forward after you get a chance to really take a good look at it and send to the board for review, that'd be great to see that. Any comment or question about bylaws?
What was the 10-day issue? I'm having a hard time hearing you, Matt. I'm sorry.
That's okay. I'm incredibly soft-spoken and appreciate that they fixed the mic. So within our current bylaws, there is a section that specifically mentions any kind of amendments to those bylaws requires a 10-day notification to the commission.
Okay.
And so in that case, I would want to ensure that if I were to take on this work, and that if we want to hear or review these changes at our next meeting, that everyone is getting the proper amount of time and notification to do that. It's a little different because the notification clause that's currently in Article 7 identifies 7 days advance notice, for meetings and hearings. And so in this case, you'll get likely multiple notices that things will be coming up.
Okay.
So yeah, that was the 10 days.
Thanks.
Okay, next item is the draft fee structure. Has there been discussion about fees? Because I know council sets the fees. Matthew?
Yes, there has been. So to kind of go back, because we are anticipating the revisions to Article 7 to go into place, and then the nomination process to open back up, we want to ensure that we have all of the information available to applicants in advance so that once the flip is switched, it's very clear kind of how things proceed. And so what I have put up on the screen is the first draft that I wanted to walk all of you through of what a Historic Review Commission applicant and certification for appropriateness would look like. Yeah.
Would you mind zooming in and getting rid of the navigation bar so we can also see a little bit easier?
Maybe.
Close the navigation bar and then on the bottom right.
Yeah.
Zoom in. Right.
There we go. Thank you.
That's much better, even more. Thank you.
Yeah, of course. Commissioners, is that all right?
Yep, looks good.
Okay. So this is specifically for certification, or certification of appropriateness. So what we have is if somebody needed to make any kind of major changes to their property, there is a form that they would need to fill out. The second page of which identifies the fee schedule. And so it does break down what a minor alteration is, and this is reflective of the language that's in Article 7. So there would be minor alterations that are not reviewed by staff or commission. Those would be any work that's on a project's building's interior, basic maintenance and repairs, repainting already painted surfaces, as well as paint color choice, temporary and non-permanent installations, landscaping with a contingency, content of murals, and a project limited to a portion of a building not visible of a public right-of-way. So should a property owner want to make any of those specific changes, it would not require them to put in a certificate of, or apply for a certificate of appropriateness. So something that wouldn't cross our desks. But there are other types of minor alterations. And so for things that are at kind of the next level up, so in-kind restorations and replacement, signage, and projects using historic tax credits. So a good example for an in-kind replacement is if somebody had wood windows and they were replacing them with wood windows that looked the same. By the same measure, if someone had asphalt roof that needed to be replaced and they're replacing it with asphalt roof. So the in-kind replacement just means they're using the same materials and they're just replacing what's already there. So for a residential fee, wouldn't cost residents anything. They would still need to fill out the application. They would still need to file it with staff, with me, but there wouldn't be any application fee. For non-residents, so for example, a business or a nonprofit, the application fee there would be $20. So I know that we had, in previous meetings of the HRC, talked about wanting to keep this entire program as accessible as possible and to not put a burden on people who are landmarking their buildings. And so we went through and looked through the city's current existing fees, as well as looking at fees that other communities that have a historic preservation program relate to this particular process, and felt that those were the most representative of what would be meaningful, accessible to all, but very much want to get your input as well. And I know this is something we can kind of go through segment by segment because there's another section that talks about major alterations. So I would ask for your thoughts currently on the division between minor alterations that are not reviewed by the HRC and those that would be.
I'm having hard times, but I'm both deaf and blind, I guess. I'm having a hard time hearing that singing. So what's basically the major distinction between the minor and the major?
So to get into major, so a project that would involve either changing materials, a change
Change in materials?
Mhm.
Okay.
change in fenestration, putting in something that's new, so HVAC or fencing, something like a non-conforming sign, new construction, after the fact work, demolition. So major projects are those which would fundamentally change the nature of a place, of what it looks like. And so for that, we're really looking at when someone changes material. So if they are going, let's say, from a tile roof to an asphalt roof, or if they're looking to replace wooden windows with vinyl windows, that rises to a major alteration.
Okay.
And so those two categories.
Is there going to be a bigger master list of all those different things?
Yes. So the idea
Especially
then.
the windows.
Yes. So the idea is to provide more examples and more visuals about what this looks like. These are very, I realize, high-level categories. And again, at least with the major alteration fees, they're reflective of that exact same ethos that we talked about before, that this process should not be a burden to those who are wanting to go through this landmarking process, which is why for residential fees for changing materials for new construction would also be $0. And for non-residential, it would be either 50 or 20. So after the fact work would be, just to kind of unpack it a little bit, if somebody already went through with their project, so if they replaced their roof, or if they replaced their doors without first applying for a certificate of appropriateness, so they would then need to come back to the commission and make sure that that certificate of appropriateness was signed off on, even if the project was done and this process didn't happen until afterwards. So those are the two major distinctions. They're reflective of what's currently in Article 7 and then what would be in the revisions to Article 7.
So I would think like things that we could anticipate would be, like a major thing would be if they change the roof line, or if they change the footprint, either inside or outside, if they were tearing out walls, that kind of thing. Or if they're adding something and changing the footprint, or like the porch, which would be, I think, a very common request, as opposed to like windows and doors and roof material. That could be considered major, but like paint would be something that, we've already funded that. So I would think that those are going to be the common requests, even more than landscaping, but what do I mean?
It would vary. So we wouldn't, just to kind of backtrack a little bit, if somebody did want to make alterations to the interior of their home, if they wanted to,
that's not us.
Yes,
Okay.
exactly that. We
fine.
wouldn't review any of that. But yes,
If
to
they
your
change the
point,
footprint of the exterior of the phone,
that would be
would
something.
it
that-
only be like if we could see it from the street, or let's say they do it on their backyard?
If it's visible from a public right-of-way, so if it's visible from the street, it would need a certificate of appropriateness. If it's being done on part of the building that is not visually accessible, so if their backyard,
Correct.
it would not require a certificate of appropriateness.
Unless you could see it from a side street.
It depends.
Right.
In that case, we would look to see kind of what is visible and to what extent. There's a lot of precedent within historic preservation policy that, yes, it's a side street, but it needs to be reasonable. If it's a side street that's multiple blocks over,
Right.
that's not something that's typically reviewed. It would need to be something that if, let's say, a house is on a corner,
Yes.
or a corner lot where there's kind of two streets where something is visible, then it would be the sides of the houses that would be visible from the street.
Demolition would be, anything, like they're moving stairs, partial porch, dormer. So that would just fit into that.
And
general
that's
category.
exterior.
Exterior only, yeah.
So in this case, we wouldn't refer to those as a demolition per se, but it would be a change. So a change in material in particular, because at this point they're changing the roof line or they're changing what the porch structure looks like. Demolition exclusively through the lens of historic preservation is demolition of a property in its entirety or in part. So if they are demolishing a former addition to the house or former addition to a building, then that's something that you'd look at through the lens of demolition. Also, if like they wanted to raise the property entirely, that's something that would also need a certificate of appropriateness. And we'd be looking at a demolition through that lens.
Because let's say as an example, like Friendly's Tavern, and I think we gave them some funding for something when they came here. Like they tore off the addition off the original building, even though the addition was really old.
And that's something that would need to be adjudicated by all of you as commissioners, that if there was a demolition in part or in whole, it would require the applicant to come before all of you. You would need to deliberate about whether or not that demolition is appropriate for the property. And in specific cases, like you mentioned, it could be that a demolition is appropriate because they're trying to restore what the building looked like at a very specific part in time. It could also be that the addition itself is also historic fabric, and which is why we need the commission to be able to adjudicate things like that. The asterisk that I mentioned for landscaping, it wouldn't be something that we looked at unless that place is important because of its landscape. So it wouldn't necessarily relate to like individual homeowners or even businesses, but if we were looking at a park, for example, or if we were looking at an arboretum or even a cemetery, there's specific landscape features there that are important. And so in that case, we would review them. But if, let's say theoretically,
Like
a homeowner wants to
monuments.
put in some azaleas, that's not something that we would review.
But if like landscaping or monuments, things like that would be mostly public.
Yes, monuments, we would look at a completely
It's a whole
different
different
category.
thing.
Yep.
Okay.
I know it's, you're moving with like very concentric wheels,
I'm
right?
trying.
Like if then this.
Right.
Well, no, but
right.
it's important. That's
It
been
is.
our problem. We never had all this specifics,
Yes.
and therefore vinyl windows ended up in some of these houses and whatever. So I'm all for very specific outlines of, what we mean by a major change versus a minor change.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And for all of this.
Because the public should know what that means,
Exactly.
not just us.
And so these materials that I've drafted and would be made publicly accessible, they're really to provide people kind of general guidance, but I'm here to help all applicants. So whether or not they need assistance with the landmarking process or whether or not they need assistance putting together a certificate of appropriateness, I'm here to help navigate all of it for folks so they're not ever doing it alone. And I know that we haven't reviewed any certificate of appropriateness to date, but when that process would happen, I would work with an applicant to make sure that all of the information that is listed here is provided and to figure out kind of which category is appropriate for them and make sure that the fees are checked off, even though a lot of the fees here are $0. And make sure that I would then brief you as a commission and talk about the project, provide you a recommendation of how their project maps within the guidelines that are established by the Secretary of Interior. And then the applicant would have an opportunity to continue on and kind of in further detail talk about what their project is. And then all of you would adjudicate and then either grant a certificate of appropriateness, postpone the hearing for a later date if more information is needed, or deny, depending on what you feel is appropriate.
Can I ask another broad question?
Of course.
Where does the money go? So if somebody pays $50 for application, does it go into the City of Erie General Fund or does it go to the Historic Review Commission general fund?
From my understanding, there is no Historic Review Commission General Fund.
That should be a good way to start.
All application fees would be addressed to the city of Erie.
It goes directly to the City of Erie General Fund. Okay, I just want to know where it went.
I believe that's right, although I look to members of the audience who are far more established than I, who are shaking their head that that's accurate.
I think it's good to let people know what happens with the money. People will ask us that.
And I know that one of the questions that you are likely to encounter as a commissioner are, what are the fees associated with this? People want to know exactly how much money would be required, if money is even required. I know this is something that we've talked about in very broad strokes before, but have not established a schedule of fees. And so this is a jumping off point, and I want all of you to be comfortable and familiar with these numbers so that if you're ever asked,
Yes.
as a homeowner, what is this going to cost me?
Right.
It's going to cost them no money to go through the certificate of appropriateness process.
Yes.
So can you walk us through the kind of reasoning behind the after-the-fact work fee of $20, which is less than the application? So I just don't want us to incentivize the after-the-fact work.
Excellent point. Nor do we. In the discussions that we had as a department, we also didn't want to, well, I should rewind that a bit and say, because this is a very new program, because we've had no one go through it before, at least to the point where they would potentially be putting in a certificate of appropriateness application, we did not want to penalize people because it is a learning experience, especially in regard to homeowners, that there's been the majority of applicants that we've had for historic landmarks have been largely institutions, which is why we felt like some fee would be appropriate. But we very much want to start this out as a learning process. And once we've had the opportunity to reflect on this 1 year, 2 year, 5 years in the future, we may end up adjusting these fees, especially as more people become familiar with what the process is, how it functions.
Well, it's possible that after the fact work may not be approved.
Right.
That's true too, in which case what the commission would need to do is make recommendations on how remediation would happen. And we recognize that that remediation itself is not an inexpensive proposition. And so putting an application fee on top of it, we felt like, at least at this moment in time, it's more important to be able to work collaboratively and to ensure that.
Yeah, the incentive is to work with the group, and we work together to try to find the best solution.
Exactly that.
And is there a review process? Like, let's say someone comes and says they want to tear a building down and we say no after they spend $500 to do that. I mean, is there then a process by which they would be able to appeal that?
Yes, actually, that's something that's addressed in Article 7, or the revisions to Article 7.
Okay.
If the HRC adjudicates an application, and if, let's say, someone came forward with a demolition request and it was denied, they would be able to appeal that decision, and the way that they would do it would be through the court system.
Okay.
I guess I'm still wondering if it might be better for us to have the after the fact work still be the $50, because here's if I'm looking at submitting something, again, this is just a different way of thinking. I'm looking at it as a reward, right? It's you're getting rewarded because your cost is less because you didn't follow the rules, and I guess I'm wondering why we wouldn't just stick with the $50 kind of across the board and still have that collaborative nature, right? Still have you're not going to get punished, you're not going to get fined, you're right. And actually, I think at some point we probably should have a review of what happens, right, if someone fails to receive the certificate of appropriateness and goes forward with the work anyways. But in any case, that's it. I'm just vocalizing a concern and thought that that maybe we should consider kind of the $50 fee across the board, even for the after the fact work, because again, right now it almost looks like a reward for not following the rules.
No, it's very much something we struggled with as well. I appreciate your comments on this, and this is exactly why we wanted to have this briefing session, is to get all of your perspectives. So we're not, this is not set in stone. This is something that we're looking to adopt within the next few weeks prior to opening up the landmarking process again. So we can absolutely, I think, go back and have further conversations around the fees. And I'm looking at our city's attorney, who has something to say as well.
I have a question. What's the definition of after the fact work? Because what if there's in the middle of the fact work, they started, changed some stuff, haven't changed some
That's after.
And so that just goes, I think, from a business point of view, I kind of side with $50 across the board, except the demolition.
Right.
Issue. That way it's just easier for your whole, that keeps your job, I think, just less.
I would do it across the board too.
That's a good point. We can put in a caveat that addresses that.
So no matter what phase they're in, we encourage them to come forward and work with the HRC, the fee's the same. And
Yeah.
Okay. Commissioners, do you have any other comments or suggestions?
Has the fee structure been presented to city council?
We have not.
We have not. So we're waiting until till the vote takes place, and then the fee structure gets submitted. And did the city council have to vote on this fee structure or not?
I defer to our director on this, because it's my understanding that we've been exploring.
Do they empower us to do this, or the committee to do this? Or do we then have to go back to city council with a proposal for,
I do think that city council has.
do they empower us to do it?
Yeah, I think they delegated that power to you guys. I don't know if there's a limit.
I don't know.
Like, I think the public works, for instance, has informative set fees for things that involve engineering.
Yes,
You know.
exactly correct,
As
right.
long as your fee is reasonable,
Reasonable.
would be the key word.
And it's in Article 7 that we're able to set the fees.
Okay.
The language is there.
So they're agreeing to that.
We still have to go through a process with finance and the treasurer's office
yeah.
and figure out.
But that's all
that-
internal.
Yes.
That's not,
But I'm not 100% sure we have to get it approved through council, and I don't think so.
it doesn't seem like it to me, but I just don't want us to have a stumbling block that we don't cross a T or dot an I, and then someone later comes and says, well, this was ever passed by city council. The answer is no, and they say, well, then none of this is applicable.
I have not established a new fee yet here, so I think this will be a learning curve for all.
I was just hoping that we would just be cautious in the process and not make a mistake in the process, by which if there were an appeal, that would be the grounds of the appeal.
Understood.
Making sure we're doing it. Just having copies of that.
Okay.
Matthew, so anything else regarding this form? Is there any other discussion? You're done with reviewing the form then?
That question lies with you. If all of you are
I'm
finished
satisfied.
reviewing this,
I'm
this
satisfied.
form,
I think so.
we're welcome to kind of move on. I know that there are several other forms that I wanted to talk through as well.
Yeah, do we want to talk to the historic nomination, the template, the process flow, and the assistant? Might as well talk about all that at once, the assistance policy. You want to
Yeah,
review all that? You said you have a brief update on all three.
I can do. And I want to pull up some examples of what this looks like. So what you see before you is a step-by-step of what the process flow looks like for doing a historic nomination. Again, this is something I know that all of you have lived because we've had several applications go through. So taking into consideration Article 7 revisions, there's a process flow here that I'm working with to put on our website. So at least immediately, it would be available as a form. In the long term, it would be a lot more graphic, and so that anyone who's interested in this would be able to access this information just by going to the website itself of, what steps are in the process of doing a landmark, really kind of fundamentals. And so this is something that I would ask that all of you also familiarize yourself with if these questions come up to you. And I will send all of these forms to you to review like a little bit more myopically that we're not doing it in a hearing session. But I did want to let you know that this is a lot of the work product that we're focused on at the moment to make sure that, again, all those different pieces are in place for when this process starts again. One of the other significant pieces to this is the draft historic landmark application assistance policy. This is important for various reasons, but it acknowledges that if somebody needs assistance in putting together a historic landmark application, that I as staff am able to help them with that process. And the reason why that there's a policy in place is so there's some guidelines and some kind of buffers of things that either I can or cannot do as part of this. One of the bulleted items here are kind of the biggest points. I think that two of the most significant, well, maybe three of the most significant, is that it delineates that if an applicant is interested in the city's help in this process, my help in particular, it would need to be something that is agreed upon by the property owner. So that if the owner is not in agreement, if they disagree with going forward with a landmark application, I would not be able to help them in the research and writing of the application itself. But if the owner of a property who is supportive of it, or if an applicant that is representing an owner wants assistance from the city in doing this, that I'm available to help. It delineates kind of other things here as well. I'm not able to accept any kind of compensation or fees or anything for doing this process. It's completely non-monetary. And that in addition, I'm able to help them if they're interested in seeking a determination of eligibility from the State Historic Preservation Office. I'm able to help with that as well. The reasoning behind that is one of our nominations for the City of Erie is easily convertible into a determination of eligibility for the State Historic Preservation Office, at which point you would be almost passing a baton onto staff there that would be able to help the applicant kind of move forward. So the bedrock of this is that we're, as a city, acknowledging that a historic application process can be really difficult and is not something that either everyone has the time or skill set in order to be able to move forward on. And so that in providing this service, this kind of assistance, that we're inherently leveling the playing field so that anyone that meets the qualifications of submitting an application and is interested in doing so would have assistance.
I wonder if it would be benefit to have like resources also on our website for where, possible other places to research or to just look or ask questions. That might help also. So it's not all, either per applicant and you. So.
Indeed.
Yeah.
I think we will get there. And I know that one of the goals that the commission established for itself over this year was to make our website a lot more robust than it is now. We've made some progress on that already. It's tidied up a bit. And as of last week, the city actually launched a new website, if any of you might have seen. So it definitely looks a lot spiffier. And
Your name's on it.
My name is on that. So if anyone needed to contact us, they know exactly who to call. So there'll be a continual evolution of, I think, information that's on the website to help applicants and resources and how to go about you know, researching your own house history, for example, are things that we're anticipating adding onto the website as we go along.
Unrelated to this policy, but I just wanted to make sure that you have access to the other policies that the HRC had created. Okay, just wanted, okay.
I do.
There's one, I think, on letters of support. And so it's been some time now since those were written, and it probably wouldn't hurt for us to review those other policies as well. There was one on letters of support, and I can't recall, might have been project support as well. But again, just wanting to make sure that just because there's been so many transitions, that those documents are not forgotten. And they need to be looked at since they're now probably 3 years old.
Understood. I appreciate that. My predecessors left a lot of notes, a kind of overwhelming amount. So I'll make sure that those policies are pulled and that we can have another look at everything since it's been a few years.
Okay, Matthew, anything else as far as those 3 items? We're good?
No, that's it. I will send out all of this information to you and also have it posted on our website for public comment. But no, if anyone has any other comments and suggestions on these, or if they're interested in, again, providing me any kind of recommendations, especially for that vacant commissioner position, then please do so.
Great, thank you. It's a lot of stuff, a lot of work there, a lot of upcoming work. So thank you for that.
That's what I'm here for.
Thank you. Next on the agenda is the director's report.
Thank you. Happy to be sitting on this side of the table this time. I do want to thank Matthew for really, he's hit the ground running. I think we've immersed him in a lot of paperwork and information quickly, and thankfully he is able to just take the reins. And so there is a lot of work going on, and the fact that we're building policy and procedures around this program and providing clarity and transparency not only to the HRC and internal staff, but also to the public is so crucial to the program. So very excited. I really only have just one update that I wanted to provide to the commission. Over the last month and a half, the planning department, along with Michael Baker International, which is one of the consultants that we work with, very nationally recognized firm for planning and engineering, we've been working on amendments to our SALDO, which maybe you've heard of this document. It's called the Subdivision and Land Development Ordinance, first enacted in 1989 by the city of Erie. It has not undergone any revisions since that time, and there have been some flaws that we found in the document or ordinance itself that needed to be corrected to comply with state law. So no time like the present. Some of the proposed updates include updating the review and approval process, specifically on land development review, updating purposes to ensure consistency with the Pennsylvania Municipal Planning Code, updating review fees and definitions, and revising typos and errors throughout the document. We will be posting for public comment for 30 days. Hopefully I'll post that this afternoon. August 6th will be the 30-day mark. We are also holding a special meeting this Thursday at 2 p.m. in the department's conference room. It is open to the public. It is open to the public. And if you are interested in attending, you can contact me at jspry@erie.pa.us. erie.pa.us, that's correct, yes. We will also have other points along the way for the public to participate in public comment at planning commission meetings, at council meetings, and at a public hearing, because this is a change in ordinance. So if you are interested, you can look at our website for more information, but just wanted to notify the Historic Review Commission because this does affect residents, it affects landowners, it affects developers, and stakeholders in the community. So just wanted to give a brief overview of those amendments. It is not a full comprehensive rewrite, but it is specifically amendments to Article 3 and 4 of the Saldo. So any questions on that? I can provide you more of an update. It will be posted on the city website showing the amendments, but just wanted to make the HRC aware of those changes.
Great, thank you.
Okay, that's all for today.
Great,
Thank you.
thank you, Jackie. Well, that's it for our agenda. So we will adjourn. Would anyone like to make a motion to adjourn?
I'll move to adjourn.
Do we have a second?
Second.
Those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Those opposed, nay. The ayes have it. Thank you.